Hey guys, Richard here, and today's segment is on the topic the transition from boyhood to manhood. We're going to look at the difference psychologically between how a man thinks and how a boy thinks. And I also want the evolution process from boyhood to manhood, an enjoyable process, and also to help you understand that it is a journey. It's not a once off thing, right? So you don't graduate and say, I'm a man. Yes, that is it. No, that is not the right mental attitude. The right mental attitude here is that you're going to be continuously growing and continuously learning. So that's what it takes to be a man, right? And for me personally, I'm on that journey towards becoming the best possible version of a male figure I can be. Right, with that said, let's look at what I think about this whole gist here. So in society, I think that there's no manual on how to make that healthy transition from boy to a man, right? There's no training out there in society right now. There's barely any information that really tells you how to really make that transition. So for most young adults, including myself, we just kind of stumble through the dark, and then hopefully somehow we're going to find our way. But that way is not always guaranteed, right? And also, unfortunately, for most of us, we don't get a good role model of what it means, or we don't get a good example of what it means to have a masculine figure in our lives and to see how they demonstrate the qualities of being a man, right? There's very few leaders out there, except you go out there and really search for them. There are, but they are not readily available to you and I as as we would like it to be. So that's kind of the core here, right? The reason why we don't have enough guys transitioning from boyhood to manhood. So that's really what it is. But I also want to encourage you that it is your birthright to become the masculine figure, right? It is designed by nature that you grow up and embrace and develop to the man that you ought to be, either by nature or by God. God intends you to be the best version of yourself. And I also want you to see that as such a fabulous opportunity to grow up and be the best version of yourself. Because I can tell you that if you do not choose this path for yourself and do not choose to become the best male version of yourself, your life going forward will be plague. Honestly, it'll be very frustrating because there just gonna be few things that aren't just working for you. And this is because you didn't take the actual initial step towards becoming the best version of yourself, and in terms of masculinity as well. Right, so let's look at how this really worked in the ancient time. In ancient time, they had the strategies, right? They had a method by which a lot of guys or young fellas could actually transition into manhood. So the way it used to work in ancient um, stories, not stories actually, in ancient times, is the idea that back then what used to happen was there was a community, there was a ritual that surrounds this whole idea, that is the transition from boyhood to manhood. They were all ritual, right? So young people would pretty much, they had access to leadership, which is not really readily available these days. So those leadership figures were people like the sages, philosophers, men of power. We have saints, old men of wisdom. So these people existed in that society back then, which is not really the case right now. Well, it is the case, but very rare to find. So because these people were out there, there were certain rituals whereby young male would have to go through this kind of learning process. And when they meet some of these highly classified male in society, they would have to learn how to, first of all, hunt, how to think for themselves, how to really develop independence thinking. Because for most of these highly status male, what has happened to them is that they have gone on their own hero's journey. If you're familiar with the hero's journey, so they have gone on that hero's journey and they know what it feels like to be on that path. And this is what they are teaching most of these young people. So that's how it kind of works, right? So those young people learn through rituals and all this kind of method that they had in place to become a better version, right? So there was a easy process there. Whereas today, it's not the case. Now it's more of an idea of every man for himself. People aren't really concerned about other people's well-being. Male figures in society really barely know. Most guys anyway don't even know the information, let alone trying to teach another person. So that's kind of it's the way the people did it back then, but you could see how shattered our modern way of doing things is, and how we don't get results as a result of that. So I also feel that in society there's just a tendency, or this kind of notion, whereby boys are not really encouraged to grow up to be men, right? It's a lot more safer to be a child. And even guys who want to become the better version of their selves in terms of becoming the masculine figure they want to be, there's still some resistance from a society standpoint, and also from a personal standpoint, to actually take on that role, right? All right, so with that said, let's go into some of the misconceptions about being a man. Now, the biggest part here is the physical attributes, right? Now, a lot of men make that transition in terms of their physical appearance from being a boy into a man. So they go through puberty, so to speak, right? So that is very obvious. We see that happening. But what we don't see here is their psychology, their mental attitude, and spiritual shift that happens to become a man, right? And that is really the core of it, right? So the physical process happen, but also if you want to become a man, then you need to shift your psychology, so to speak, right? And let's just go through to some of the misconceptions that we have out there. One misconception is that being a man is about being able to make babies. Well, sound absurd, right? Being a man is nothing, or has nothing to do with the fact that you can make baby. Quite frankly, anybody could make babies, right? So by you being able to make baby doesn't mean that you're a man. Although a case could be made for that, but generally not a criteria for being a man. The second misconception about being a man is that being a man has to do with your size and your physical body. Again, this is not really the core of being a man. Thirdly, is the idea that being a man comes with age. Not really. Age can come without experience. So it doesn't necessarily mean that once you're older, then you're going to be a man. That is not how the formula works. And also, I just want to really take the point here to really spell out some of the potential risks involved if you don't really embrace your masculinity and really develop it. Because honestly, it's such a beautiful thing. I love being a man. I don't know about you. I love it so much, right? I wouldn't like to be any other thing except being a man, right? So here are a couple of the things that can really go wrong for you if you don't really embrace this. One is that your attraction towards the opposite sex won't be as polarized. It won't be as strong. There will be a weak link because you're not playing your part as a man. And I see a lot of guys doing this in their relationship, right? And I will still be a victim of this, but at least I'm aware of it. So there's a difference there, right? Number 2 point is that to keep a relationship going, you need to be your own man, right? And I see a lot of guys really not understanding what it means to be a man, and then kind of sabotaging themselves in that way. Number 3 points here is that if you do not take this aspect seriously, then you're really not gonna have like a purpose, right? Because all men have a purpose to their life, and this is what it means to be a man. A man has a purpose to their life. They're not just wandering like the way most people wander, like they have a purpose to their life. So they are not some sort of leaf blowing in the wind and spinning their wheels up and down. No, that's not the core of being a man. A man is on purpose and he knows what is up to, right? So that is the key here. So let's look at some of the definition between a boy and a man. So a boy is really a child male, right? He accepts the parameters that's been set by society for him. He doesn't question it. He just goes along, just goes with the flow. No thinking really involved, right? So his life is just kind of weaving back and forth with what society says. Whereas a man has something different, right? He challenges what's out there in society. He goes on his own hero's journey, as I'm going to explain later on, and it's on purpose, right? He displays qualities such as, bravery, strength. He lives by principle. He lives by values. It's not just wandering around, right? So he knows what he's up to, right? So those are the key difference between a boy and a man. All right, so I'm going to go into this mythological story that probably you've heard before, but I think it really kind of cements this idea here of what it means to be a man. So if we go into the mythological hero's journey, right? So a guy typically they start off as a young person, obviously, and what happens is that they accept the parameters that has been set by society for them. So they go through their lives, and but as they get older, what happens is that they begin to develop that curiosity. They begin to ask questions like most people should do, and they begin to ask what is really out there for them, right? So over time, these young people, given that this was ancient time, whatever, that they will be able to, or they'll be encouraged to take that hero's journey, right? So what happens is that these young fellas has to go on their own path and go on their own journey to find questions for themselves, right? So they leave the village, they head out to the woods, whereby they have to face their demons, so to speak, right? So in that process, they develop values, they develop principles, they develop their purpose to life, and then they face their fears. And over time, being out in the woods and really doing this, what happens is that they develop all these qualities and some level of mastery they gain, which means that they are with it for the rest of their lives. So they know what it feels like to be on purpose. And then in the end, they defeat the dragon and then they come back to their old original place. What happens is that, people admire them because they've been on their own journey. They've been on their own hero's journey. They are no longer a victim. They understand more about life than most of their colleagues who didn't actually make that move, right? So what happens in this case is that most of these guys, they come back, they return to their community, and they are of value to other people, right? So they bring in those leadership skills, some of the ideas they learned and some of the epiphanies they had when they were away. So they bring that back to the society and everybody benefits from it. So that's what it takes to be a man, to go on your hero's journey and then come back successfully and then share whatever you found with your local community. So that's what it is to be a man. So being a man is not about it's not conforming to just what everyone says to you without really questioning it. So being a man is totally different. A man is on purpose, right? And of course, this doesn't stop there, right? These people, when they return, they continue being a man. So they don't just stop and then go back to the default place, right? They continue to become a higher value person, and then they just keep stepping up the game from there on. All right, guys, that's it for this segment. I really like talking about this topic that has to do with masculine energy and feminine energy and how to be a man. Later on, I'm going to be working on the idea or shooting a video where I really talk about the core of being a man, and I hope to see you there, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. Just one final comment I want to make here is that I have free coaching going on. I'm available for free coaching. If you want to get yourself coached by me or get yourself unstuck in any area of your life, I am available and I'm here for you. All right. I'll leave a description of that information or where or and how to contact me, so you could have that at your disposal if you so wish. All right, guys, leave your comments, subscribe to this channel, and yeah, like this video. All right, guys, that's it. Bye.